Just got finished watching season 8, episode 5 of Game of Thrones, and I gotta say, the effects were pretty good. Unfortunately, it's like the better the production gets, the worse the writing gets, because this is one of the most terribly written episodes I ever seen. Every scene I was laughing through because it was so illogical and retarded. You can see the first scene here. Varys right here is writing a letter. They're trying to betray Dany, and she has him burnt to death. Now, what's funny is I kind of expected that from Dany because they've been portraying her as going crazier and crazier. Even though in this episode, for some reason, she made a heel turn out of nowhere. Like one episode, she's good, and the first two episodes of this season, these last two episodes, she just went ridiculously evil for seemingly no reason. And I know George R. R. Martin said that all the main characters in the same end they have in the show is the same end they have in the books, but I'm pretty sure he wrote that better, like because she's bringing a lot of this in this episode out of nowhere. Like it was ridiculous. But she has Varys burned to death for betraying her. But all he did was talk to Jon Snow. I mean, nobody saw him write the letter, and all he did was talk to Jon Snow, and she had him burned to death for that. And what was crazy about it, we just goes forward a little bit. Here's him talking to Jon Snow. Here, what the fuck happened here? Did one episode apart, like. But here we have now this scene was kind of stupid because they had where's he? I know John's somewhere over here. I think he's back here. But they have John standing right here next to her. And he's just looking at her like, oh, I expected this. They brought him here to the meeting and everything, and he's just standing there like he doesn't find nothing wrong with it. And then after she burns him to death, he like, oh my god, I can't believe you would burn somebody to death. I'm like, what the fuck? Did they bring you here and tell you what they were doing? You knew this shit when you stepped in. Like, and I'm looking like he didn't find nothing wrong with that. John didn't go like, maybe Tyrion has a point here. Maybe we shouldn't be following Daenerys. Maybe Varys does have a point here. I mean, why is she burning people to death? And since I, I don't mean to put too fine a point on this, but he just talked to Jon Snow. He didn't actually do anything else. Like he needs to be executed for that. He questioned her sanity, and with her doing shit like this, she got a right to. Even Tyrion is questioning her sanity. But she had him burned to death, and I don't know. John Cuck Snow just agreed to it for no reason at all. Just like, hey, you know, burn to death. And then here's another terribly written scene right here when John comes and talks to Dany. Now, the acting in the scene is actually pretty good. The actor from all the actors are actually really good, but it's a shame that it's ruined by such terrible writing. Because in this scene, John talks to Dany. He's like, what's going on here, Dany? Like, I'm with you. I served you and everything like that. You're my queen. And she's all like, I don't know, I'm evil Sith Lord now. Let's have sex. Which is weird because it came right after that scene where she literally burnt somebody to death. Like, I don't know if she's supposed to get horny by burning people to death, or I don't know what they were trying to do. It was too much of a scene, a mood change in like a second where I was like, maybe give that death time to simmer down before you go into her trying to have sex with Jon Snow. But then they never explain why Jon rejects Dany. Like the scene gives no context. He just feels awkward about it. Does he feel awkward because it's his aunt and he don't want to have sex with his aunt? Or do you feel awkward because she burning people alive and might be a crazy person? The scene doesn't give any context. The actors, they play it as best they could, but it just shows how terrible the writing is, that the scene has absolutely no context. I was completely confused. Like, does John still want to be with Dany? If he doesn't, then why? Why aren't they explaining it? Why go through the trouble of shooting all these scenes where he's pulling away if you're not going to explain any of it and give us context? Like, the scene is just horribly written. And it showed how far the writing had fallen while the production quality was going up, because the actors are acting really good. The set and everything looks really good. The special effects looks really good, but the writing is just complete shit. Like, and I'm pretty sure this scene will be in the books too. But again, it'll probably have more context because I noticed with the earlier seasons that when the books do a scene that the show did, the books gives the scene a lot more context. Like with the red wedding thing. With the red wedding, when they was leading up to it, you could see the reasons, the clear reasons why the red wedding had to happen. It didn't. The show kind of makes what's his name, Rob Stark, to seem like a good guy, but the book portrays him as a person who's trying to be good, but he doesn't know what the right thing to do is because he's essentially a child. So when he's put in that situation, he tries to be honorable or he tries to do the right thing or the best he can, but he doesn't see that he's doing the wrong thing. And the book gives a lot of context to that, but since on the show they kind of aged him up, they couldn't give as much context to it. And Red Wedding comes out of nowhere, and it's like, oh my god, you just killed a good man. When in reality, they just killed the asshole who was making bad decisions. And this scene is the same. Dany's supposed to be going crazy, and she wants to have sex with Jon Snow, but the scene isn't really given any context because they're terrible writers, and they just didn't give a reason of why Jon Snow doesn't want to be with her. And then we have this scene, which is another stupid scene. Tyrion again begs for mercy for the city, but it's kind of like, Cersei isn't going to give up. Like, she had her chance. This is like her third chance. Like, Daenerys is perfectly right. It's just that she looks like fucking Darth Vader on his throne. But Daenerys makes a pretty logical point by saying, I'm not going to wait for the city to give up. They had their chance. And, like, Cersei had her chance at least 3 or 4 times. And she just beheaded, like, Daenerys' best friend or one of her close friends. Like, Daenerys is perfectly reasonable. But, again, the writing is all messed up. So they make Daenerys look like fucking Darth Vader here. Like, she's all evil for saying, no, I'm just going to burn the city. And Tyrion's all heartbroken about it. Like, oh my god, I really cared about King's Landing. And I get that he does supposed to care, but they kind of overdid it. Like, how many chances is she supposed to give Cersei to give up? Like, and not to mention Cersei just shit in her face where she just beheaded one of her friends. And later on, that comes back to bite Cersei in the ass, which I was saying in the last episode. Like, why would you take a hostage and then immediately kill the hostage? The fuck is the point of that? The whole point of the hostage is so the person doesn't attack you. Like, it didn't make any sense, but that's more bad writing. Cersei had to kill, I can't remember her name, the black chick, just because, she wanted to seem more evil. But in a story sense, that made no sense because she just killed her only hostage, and now Daenerys has no reason not to attack the city. And this scene, another touching scene ruined by the writing. Terrible. In this scene, Tyrion goes to free Jaime, and that was another. Before this scene, I don't know why Daenerys would do this. It's just stupid. But she put her guards in front of the tent of Jaime, and then she didn't tell them not to let Tyrion in. I don't know why. Like, she's so worried about betrayal, but somehow she didn't think, hey, don't let Tyrion talk to the man who just betrayed us. Because Jaime, I guess he was going to walk out and save Cersei or whatever. I don't know how that shit was going to happen, but whatever. I don't even know what Jaime's plan is here. He's going to sneak into the castle, somehow save the woman who just ordered his death, which he knows about. I mean, Bronn came to him in the last episode. Again, stupid writing, but whatever. And again, George said it ends the same way, but I'm pretty sure he put more context to this. And I don't know. I don't even know his plan, what it was. But Tyrion tries to save him, and he's like, hey, help me try to save the city. And I was like, well, what are these two going to do about saving the city? Daenerys already said she was going to burn it to death. She never agreed to Tyrion's plan. So, he's like, hey, if they ring the bell saying open the gates, let's not burn them to death. But I'm sitting here like, that's kind of Daenerys' choice, not yours. Like, and Daenerys already said, fuck them. Like, And so he frees Jamie, and of course he's like, maybe Daenerys. Tyrion's like, maybe Daenerys let me live after this. And I'm like, did you see what she just did to Varys? She just told you like she was gonna kill you if you fuck up one more time. Like, what are you doing? And I'm not saying that it's terrible for what happens, like him freeing Jamie and trying to save the city. I'm saying it's terribly written because Tyrion is being stupid, like maybe she'll let me live. When we literally just watched her burn somebody to death for betraying her and then threaten Tyrion uh, about failure. Like, she's not gonna let you live if you betray her. Like, we all know that. Tyrion should know that. He's smart enough to know that. It's a touching scene, but it's ruined by the logic of the writers. Like, they just didn't think about it. Not to mention, this episode suffers from how the scenes are put together. Like, for just to give an example, they just showed us Daenerys threatening Tyrion, uh, that his brother betrayed him, and that she doesn't trust Tyrion. And then the scene right after, they show us Tyrion saying he's gonna betray her, and somehow he's gonna get mercy. Like, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, the way you set up the scenes, you just set up the scenes where Daenerys says she's gonna kill him, and then he's like, oh, maybe she won't. What the fuck? And then what we have here? Oh, the shit I considered really stupid. Now, I've been saying this for a long time. Why are the people going into the city? It makes no sense. They know the city is going to be attacked by the North and everybody in Westeros and the Dothraki and three dragons, presumably, until the two dragons got killed. Why would they go into the city? It never made sense to me why these people would be going into the city. Like, they know the city's about to be attacked. Even if Cersei was going to somehow win, these people would all die because they would be in the city. Like, I don't get why these people are going into the city. It's stupid. Like, why would you go into a city that's about to be attacked? If anything, you would be running to the other cities. In fact, I don't know why everybody's not running to fucking Highgarden. That's wide open. Its fields are they need workers because the fields just got burned by Daenerys. The castles and everything are empty because nobody's there to guard it because all the Tyrells got killed, and they need work and people for the land. Why would they go to King's Landing, who's about to be attacked by an overwhelming force? It never made sense to me. In this episode, everybody gets burned to death, and then they're all shocked about it. Like, oh my god, we didn't know this giant dragon was gonna burn the city to death, but you saw it flying overhead. You knew it was coming. Why did you come here? Like, this is just stupid writing right here. Nobody would come to this city. If anything, everybody would be exiting the city. Like, you know what? This city's about to be real fucked up. We about to leave. Like, like, but yeah, another stupid part. And before that, oh my god, these things. The scorpions. In the last episode, they hit with the force of a cannonball and they had auto aim. In this episode, they need to be cranked up and can only fire one shot and are super slow. And that just shows the terrible writing again. Because in the last episode, the episode right before this, they show us how powerful the scorpion is and how unbeatable it is and how it can kill a dragon easily. And then they go out of our way, I mean out of their way, just to show how useless the scorpion is in the next episode. Like, and I'm looking like, why would you do that? Like, I get that you wanted to set the scorpion up to be able to defeat the dragons and for it to be a threat to the dragons. But then why in the next episode just show it to be completely useless and ineffective? Like, and why did they make it so powerful in the last episode? Like, they could have wrote it where what's the dragon Viserion or whatever his name is just gets hit with a lucky shot in the eye and then he goes down and he crashes into the water, which is how they did it with I think it's Meraxis, Aegon's wife's dragon. Like, it got hit in the eye and then it fell and it died from falling out the air. It didn't really die from the bolt in the eye. It fell into a castle from really high up, so it killed her and it fell, or at least they think it killed her. I mean, they could have did it the same way in this one, but In the last episode, they go out of their way to show how powerful the scorpion is. It hits the dragon 3 times. The dragon clearly dies from the scorpion bolts and not the fall. And then the next episode, they just show us that it's completely useless. Daenerys does exactly what I said in the last video. She just flies completely up and then comes down and roasts all these scorpions. And like none of them hit. Not to mention, how would they even be able to aim at the dragons when they're really high up? Because if you look at the angle of this, it's for firing far, not high. It would need to be straight up. So Daenerys could presumably just come down on them and burn them like she did, which is what I was saying. Why didn't she do that before? But before they had auto aim and hit with the force of a cannonball. And this one, they need to be cranked up and are super slow. It's just bad writing. Like, why it shows such a difference in the scorpions between 2 episodes. I mean, an episode apart. Like, and then we have this weird scene where Tyrion again says, "Hey, Jon Snow, if they ring the bell, stop the attack." And the first thing I'm thinking is, like, he doesn't even have command of the army. He has command of the North. And if he stops the attack, Daenerys is just gonna burn him too. Like, she never agreed to your plan, Tyrion. Like, why you keep pushing this? Like, trying to get everybody to do it. I get that he's trying to save the city, but they're taking it to such an extreme level, which is just ridiculous. Like, even if Jon Snow did stop attacking, what would that do? The Dothraki are still going to attack. The Unsullied are still going to attack. Daenerys is still going to burn the city because that's what she wanted to do. And she told Tyrion that she was going to do that. So, it's no point in telling Jon to stop the attack. That's just, again, bad writing. But I gotta say, the special effects were really good in this episode. Like the castle and everything, it looked pretty, especially when the dragon's destroying the castle. It looked really good. It's just that the writing was so terrible in every scene. And of course, here's the scene where Daenerys burns the ships to death. And she just flies really high up and then comes down and burns them to death. And the scorpions can't aim at her because they're too high up. Well, Daenerys is too high up. And we see the Golden Company. This scene was pretty cool when the dragon burst through the wall. That was the money shot right there. But after that, it went pretty downhill. Like, another thing I didn't know, why aren't any main characters wearing helmets? And it wouldn't be such a big deal if everybody didn't wear helmets, but you have him not wearing a helmet, and then literally all of his soldiers wearing helmets. like, again, terrible direction right there, because, like, okay, I get that you wanted to see the actor's face and you wanted to make it a more emotional scene, but then you kind of contrast that when you have everybody else wearing a helmet except for the main characters. Like, him and Jon Snow are the only guys that go into battle without helmets. It just looks super weird when you see them in battle. You're like, put on a helmet. Why are you wearing armor without a helmet? It's ridiculous. And of course, we have Cersei here. Now, another terrible writing mistake they made. Cersei is completely unworried. Like, she's even smiling at this point. She's like, I'm going to win this battle. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, you're literally fighting all of Westeros and Essos. How the fuck are you going to win this battle? like, like, all you have is the Golden Company. They have the Unsullied, the Dothraki, the North, the fucking Highgarden, fucking, what is it, Dorne? All the kingdoms of the 7 kingdoms. I think they even got the Riverlands here, except for the, I don't think they have the Ironborn. Like, what is she smiling about? And again, I gotta say, what was Cersei's plan? Like, in the end, she gets all sad because she's about to die and everything like that. And she's like, I don't want to die. But I'm like, well, what was your plan to win? At what point did you think you weren't going to die? You hold one city in a fucking, on a continent. That's it. And everybody, I mean, they literally hold every other city plus a couple of cities on another continent. And they're all attacking you. And they have dragon. Like, at what point did you think you were going to win that battle? It did, and it makes the episode look really dumb because Cersei is super confident here, and then at the end of the episode she's scared. Like somehow it was even or something, and she says this line like, only if they would have got one good shot on the dragon. And I was thinking, even if you did kill the dragon, what would that do? They still have an army. When the army showed up, the fucking Lannisters were ready to give up. Like the army would still attack the city. They would still take the keep. You don't have a force large enough to take theirs. And even if you did, you only hold this one city, and your force couldn't go out to the rest of Westeros, all the seven kingdoms of Westeros, and hold it. So the best Cersei could do, even if she had beat Daenerys, was just hold King's Landing. That's it, one city. Like, what was she gonna do? Eventually, someone would come along and take it, and even if they didn't, King's Landing would starve because they don't produce all the food and amenities needed for a city. That comes from Highgarden, and the iron comes from the Iron Board and everything like that. They could just wait them out. The city can't support itself. And in the first season, we see that when they have the food shortages, when the War of Five Kings happens. So even if she had beaten Daenerys, her city would starve to death, and she would still be overthrown. So I don't get what was her plan here. And Cersei should be smart enough to know that. Like, but in this episode, she's super confident that she can beat this dragon, the Unsullied, the Dothraki, and all the Seven Kingdoms with just the Golden Company and Euron Greyjoy. And right here, we see some really cool shots of the fucking dragon just roasting that city. Like King's Landing was done. I'm not even sure why she did this, when she could have just flew straight to the Red Keep. I mean, I get why she destroyed the Scorpions, because presumably they could shoot across this city all the way to the Red Keep. I mean, at this point, I wouldn't underestimate it. Like, the show is just getting that ridiculous. But she could have easily just flew up, came down on the Red Keep, and then blew it up. But I don't know. Somehow these Scorpions on the wall were gonna shoot all the way over here. And I know some people would say, well, maybe they could have used the Scorpions to fire at the army. But again, the army was already charging in before they even got a chance to fire those Scorpions. And those Scorpions are way too big and slow to take down more than like one or two men. So it'd be kind of pointless. And they had a big hole in the wall after she came through. So, I mean, and then, another stupid scene. Okay. So Jon Snow and the Unsullied attack the city, kill everybody, and then for some reason they get to these Lannister men, and they stop for no reason at all. They just go, "Oh, so I'm gonna stop." Like, what the? You're in the middle of a siege in a city, and you run into a large force of soldiers that are completely armored with weapons, and you just stop and look at them. And for some reason, the Lannisters stop too, and they just look at each other. Now, I know why the episode did this, just to build tension until the dragon lands and so they could give up. But logically, it makes no sense. Why would you just stop attacking enemy soldiers in the middle of a siege? Like, could you imagine the U.S. Army going into Iraq, and then they're attacking enemy soldiers, and then in the middle, they just, for no reason at all, stopped and started looking at each other. You have terrorists looking at U.S. soldiers, and they're just standing there, like 2 feet away from each other, staring each other down. How would that happen? like, like this scene is just terribly written, and it didn't even have to be that way. They could have had the dragon show up, and then the Lannisters drop their swords, and then slowly just start dropping their swords and be afraid of the dragon and then run away, instead of just having them run up and stop for no reason, and then Daenerys' army stop for no reason. Why would the Unsullied stop? The Unsullied follow orders. Like, they would have just slaughtered these men because they were told to, and they would be right to do so because these are enemy soldiers. It was just a stupidly written scene, and more evidence that the scene is just terribly written. The whole show, every scene in here is ruined by the writing, and it's a shame because the production is so good and the actors are so good, but it's just killed by dumb writing decisions. And of course, we get Daenerys just roasting the city again afterwards for no reason. She just decides to start roasting the city. I don't get this because she could have went to the keep and just attacked the keep. I guess they're trying to say Daenerys is crazy, but it looked like in the episode that's next episode that's not the direction they were going. And uh, after this episode, I don't think she can make a good guy comeback where she's like, oh, I was just trying to help out my men. In fact, I don't even know why she burnt the city because she already had her soldiers attacking the city, and then later on, we see her burning her own soldiers with the enemy soldiers in the city, and she's burning the people in the city, which made no sense. Like, I just didn't get that. Why would you attack your own people? And they were already winning. Like, I don't know. And of course, we got the Lannister soldiers, and they get killed, which they should have been killed. And Daenerys burning more stuff. And it's at this point Cersei starts to get worried. Where I was like, okay, but you should have been worried. Like she's just now realizing that, oh my god, they have a dragon and a giant army that's bigger than mine, and they're coming to kill me. like, like, like it took her that long to realize this. And the only reason it happened is because of the terrible writing. Like Cersei should have realized this a long time ago. I assumed that her plan was just to commit suicide and kill a bunch of people when she went because that was the only logical thing. But no, somehow she really thought she was gonna win that battle, which I'm looking like, and it's a shame because the actress that plays Cersei, Lena Henning, I think her name is, she did a really good job on this scene, but I couldn't stop laughing because the logic of it was so stupid. It was like when you saw those dragons and soldiers and everybody coming to your city, how did you think you were gonna win? Like where did that come from? Who when they were writing that script, I don't know how they wrote it and then thought, she's just such a badass that somehow she was gonna win. I can't understand that. The writing was just so bad in the scene, it just ruined every scene. And of course, we have Euron facing Jaime. And it's a shame. Like this show, my favorite character just got a horrible death. He gets stabbed twice by Euron. Another actor destroyed. I know they thought Euron was going to be a big thing this season, but boy, did they fuck that up. And in the books, man, did he sound really cool. He got a plate of, he got a Valyrian steel armor, plate armor made out of Valyrian steel that's super invincible. He has like magic powers, I think. He has all these dragon horns, and he's a badass Ironborn soldier. And he has like blue lips because he drank this magic drink, that fucking wizard's drink or whatever. I mean, he sounded really cool in the books, but on the show, oh my god, did they ruin him? Like, and he just keeps whining about how he fucked Cersei. Well, I was like, it's not really that big of a deal. You fucked Cersei, like, come on, man. like, like, they really thought Euron and Cersei were gonna be a big deal this season, and I just can't. Like, the writers should have wrote him out of this season like they did the Sand Snakes. They tried and it just didn't work out, and they just wrote a terrible character. His only character trait is trying to be badass. Like, oh, I'm a badass pirate, but he just comes off as like a whiny emo character where he's just like, oh, I fucked Cersei and I killed Jaime Lannister at the end, but he's got one hand and you didn't really do anything. You kind of just wrestled him down in the goofiest fight scene I ever seen. Shit was terrible. When he started choking Jaime and then Jaime started throwing up blood, I was like, what? And then Jaime kicked him in the throat with this super goofy kick, and he pretended to be choking. And the whole fight scene just looked weird and goofy, and the whole thing was stupid. And it's just sad to see my favorite character on the show. He began with such nuance. He was a good character, and then now he's just completely ruined at the end. Like, he's chasing Cersei in a plot line that's lasted for fucking 8 seasons now. Like, when are they going to end that plot line? He's still chasing Cersei. He still doesn't get that Cersei's evil. And And at the end, he gives a line saying, nothing else matters. And only thing I keep thinking is they keep calling us back to season one, where they're like, hey, remember how good season one was before we fucked this all up with whatever this is? So, Jamie kills him. Jamie stabs him through the chest somehow. I don't know. He, but he stabbed him through the chest and then just ran off. And Euron dies like a little bitch saying, hey, I killed Jamie. Or I was like, didn't you become king and like do 1,000 things more better than fucking killing Jamie? In the books this guy has fucking dragon horns in his cell to Valyria and fucking has a suit of Valyrian steel armor and fucking magic powers. I mean, killing the Kingslayer is kind of compared to those feats. Killing the Kingslayer doesn't raise that high on there. You killed the one-armed man like in a battle. I mean, it just ruined the Euron Greyjoy character even further. And of course, we have this scene here where Cersei's like, "Oh my God, my city's on fire! How could they set the city on fire? I never saw this coming. It's not like they had a giant fucking dragon." And she's so shocked and amazed by this. I'm like, really? Like, and I mind you that at this point, Cersei could just leave through the Red Keep, through the bottoms, array of the tower or whatever, but she doesn't. She wants to stay here and I don't know, watch the city burn. Like Qyburn has to convince her to leave. I'm like, oh, if you wanted to live, why would you stay here? Like it's just terrible writing. She's like, no, I want to stay. My soldiers can win. Like, you don't see this giant fire here? Like, what the fuck are they gonna do? Put the city out? And Qyburn is like, hey, they already passed the gates of the keep. Like, they're about to fucking come up the stairs. And of course, more fighting where fucking Jamie and Euron dies like a little bitch. Thank God. The only good thing that happened in this whole episode, besides the special effects. And another good scene ruined by fucking writing. Now this is a good scene where Arya, she accepts that she has to let go of revenge and she has to live her life. And it was a good scene and a good end to her arc. But the problem is they're having this conversation in a fucking tower that's being burned to death by a dragon. At no point will they walk through that whole city and then came in this tower did she figure out that Cersei was gonna die anyway. The Hound is like, how is she gonna survive this? Like, and I'm looking like, at what point did anybody think she was gonna survive this? And this, I've been talking about Arya, but she's been given a bunch of stupid scenes. First of all, she's gonna go in the city and kill Cersei. Now, she trained with the Faceless Men. She learned their tactics. When she killed Walder Frey, she put on a fake face, and then she snuck in there and she was all super ninja with it. And this, when she sneaks into King's Landing, she just walks in. Well, I was like, okay, what the fuck happened to your Faceless Man powers? Like, you're gonna sneak in. They were teleporting around, changing faces. She just lost all the Faceless Men skills. Like, what the fuck happened there? Like, she should have been in this city and had Cersei dead before fucking Dany's army could even enter the city. I mean, the Faceless Men are supposed to be the best assassins in the entire world. Her walking into this city and then getting caught in this stupid situation just ruins the lore of the Faceless Men even more. And it's just a stupid situation. It's a great scene, and the actors make it great. The Hounds were good, Arya was good, but the logic of them having this scene inside this tower that's currently falling is just ridiculous. Like, she walked through a whole city of the dragons burning down everything, watched the soldiers kill everybody, and she somehow thought, I need to kill Cersei personally. And didn't figure out, the Hound didn't come to her and say, hey, Cersei's gonna die anyway, like, you need to let it go. This scene should have been at the front of the gates before she even went into the city. Like, the fact that they're having it now is just stupid. And we get Sir Clegane versus the mountain. And a scene that started off good until it devolved into stupidity. now, now, it was a good scene and it was a good setup and everything like that. But for one, I don't get why the mountain hates his brother that much. I mean, I get why the hound hates the mountain, but I don't get why the mountain hates the hound so much. Because I think that's where they let a lot of fans just start writing the shows and influencing the show too much. Because the mountain burned the side of the hound's faces, which is why he hate him, and that the mountain is evil and a psychopath. So the hound hates him, and he had to grow up with him. I get that, but the mountain lived a pretty okay life. He was the lord of his house. He killed, I think, his third brother or something like that, or his father or something like that, and took over. And for the most part, he was just living his life, killing people happily. He was good. I mean, he has no real reason to hate the hound besides the hound played with his toy that one time, and he already got revenge by burning him on the side of the face. But somehow his hatred for the hound is enough for him to break control and not listen to Qyburn anymore, and he just kills Qyburn, which I don't think should happen. But this scene, I mean, the writing on this show was already so terrible that was like it didn't even really affect me. What really made this scene stupid is that the hound stabs fucking the mountain through this metal breastplate. And not only does it go through the front, which I thought, well, maybe he stabbed him on the side. No, they explicitly show the sword coming out the back of the armor, which I was like, so you can stab through plate armor now, straight through the front? Like, what is this made out of aluminum? Hey, try to find the scene where he does that stupid shit. Well, I was like, uh, oh no, we're dying. Oh, who cares? I didn't really care. But he just rams him straight through, and I do not understand how that happened. Like, now, it's always been a thing on Game of Thrones where they slash a person in solid plate armor and somehow they die, but at least they tried to hide it before through clever editing. And this one, he straight up stabs him through the plate armor. And in a show that's supposed to be so realistic, I'm like, how the fuck do you stab through plate armor? Like, what would be the point of the armor if you could just stab through it? And that's what took this fight from a good fight with me to, it just sucked. Like it was some goof troop shit there, some Lord of the Ring 5 Kings shit there. What's that, 5 armies or whatever, where they were just stabbing the orcs right through the plate armor. It just devolved into some goof troop shit, where it was just like, come on, man, come on, that didn't need to happen. And of course, we get the last scene where Jaime and Cersei die, and he goes, nothing else matters. And again, the actors were really good in this scene. Cersei was really good, and Jaime was really good. But the logic of it was just so stupid that I couldn't stop laughing. Because it's at this point Cersei's like, oh no, I want to live. I couldn't figure out that this city was going to fall until this point where the fucking dragon was burning the castle down. Somehow, when those armies showed up and the fucking dragon showed up, I couldn't tell that I was going to die until now. I was like, what was her plan for winning? Like, at what point did she think she could win? It's stupid. And here the hound tackles the fucking mountain into a fucking pit of fire, which again, the fucking super strength. He tackles the fucking mountain through this brick wall, which is shown to be completely solid. It's not broken or anything. Look how thick these bricks is. The hound tackled the mountain through that. Like, what the fuck? Again, stupidly written. It's not even necessary. He could have just as easily, they could have set it up just as easy where he tackled him through this open part right here. But no, he has to use super strength to go through the brick wall. Like, come on. I mean, the show is supposed to tout itself on realism. Look how thick these bricks is. There's no way they would have tackled each other through this shit. And at this point, Jon realizes, hey, maybe Daenerys is going crazy. Just now. Wait, and Daenerys, for some reason, is just burning the city for shits and giggles at this point. I don't know why she's really doing it. She's burning her own men. She's burning fucking enemy soldiers. And Jon's like, hey, maybe we should call for a retreat because this bitch is crazy. And I swear to God, if they try to do a redemption arc for Dany in the next episode, well, I would expect it because this is terribly written. But it's just like, how the fuck you come back from that? Like, everybody saw you with the dragon. You burnt everybody, like even your own soldiers, and you didn't even have to. And we get the longest scene ever with fucking Arya going through the city. They could have cut all of this. It was so long and stupid, and it's just meant to show like how much damage she did to the city. But I'm like, instead of having this last for about fucking 10 or 20 minutes, they could have had it last for about maybe 2 minutes, and we could have just saw the destruction. But I don't know. And again, Arya loses her faceless man powers because she's just walking through the city like, oh, I thought I was gonna walk out of this, but somehow I got trapped in a crowd. I'm like, remember when she was in Bravos, just disappearing and reappearing like she was fucking teleporting, and how the rest of the faceless men did it? And they even do that in the books. But in here, she's just trapped in that crowd with no way to get out. And I'm like, what the fuck happened to all those faceless women skills? Just completely lost. And that was before she got injured. And also, there's another scene where a tower falls on Arya, and I guess we're supposed to think she's dead, but then she just appears in the building, which I was like, terrible editing because you couldn't really tell where Arya was. Like, they get a long shot of a camera following Arya here, but then when that tower falls on her, she's just inside of a building. I guess she's supposed to be inside of a tower, but I'm like, what the fuck? We just saw you presumably die, and you don't see her waking up like, oh my god, you see her hiding in the building with a bunch of people, and it's just terribly edited. She drags this poor kid to their death, and again, Daenerys is just flame vomiting streets. I don't even think there were any enemy soldiers here. And of course, last scene, touching scene again, ruined by the writing because Cersei figured out she wants to live right at this point. And I guess she's supposed to be pregnant with Jaime's baby. But again, I don't know what was her plan to survive. She was clearly going to die, and she should have known that. And this is the scene where the show just starts sucking its own dick, and Arya rides off on this white horse, and it takes like super long, where I was like, what the fuck is going on? And the show thinks it earned this scene, but it didn't. It sucked. The whole episode was terribly written, and it wasn't good enough to earn this scene right here where it could be like thematic and deep. It wasn't that deep. Everybody was super stupid and out of character. Jon didn't know that Dany was going crazy until she started literally burning cities down, despite the fact that she just set a man on fire for just talking to Jon about him being king. Fucking Tyrion somehow thinks Daenerys is not going to burn the city, despite watching her burn 2 men to death and then burn a third man to death. She burnt the army to death at Highgarden and burned those 2 men to death, and then burned Varys to death. And then she said she was going to burn the city, but somehow Tyrion still thinks, well, maybe she won't burn the city. I don't know. Fucking Jaime comes back to Cersei after she ordered his death. And I guess, she's pregnant with his kid and whatever. So they kind of pull that one. But again, pretty stupid planning here. And of course, Arya just loses her powers. And the show just brought down by its writing at this point. It's just easier to say. And of course, we get the next episode where somehow all these Unsullied soldiers survived, despite Dany burning that city with them inside. I think it's funny that they showed the Dothraki in this episode too, where clearly they all died in that battle with the White Walkers, and they definitely died in this, but somehow there's still Dothraki left. It reminds me of like the 1980s where they couldn't show people dying, so you have like the A-Team crash in a plane, in a helicopter, or or crash a helicopter, and then the person would just get out of the helicopter and start walking around like nothing happened, and you're like, how the fuck did they survive that? The same thing here, where it's like, how the fuck did anybody survive? Where she was just going through the streets burning everybody. Ridiculous. But good production quality though. This looks awesome. It's just shame that it's ruined by the writing. And this went on for a long time, but it's sad to see my favorite show die because of its writing and not because of anything else. And the production to get so good, but the writing to get so bad. like, and I know George said it was gonna end. The show was gonna end the same way the books were gonna end, at least for the main characters. He said some side characters stories end differently, but I gotta think that George wrote this better. Like when he wrote this, I gotta think like, there was more context and more subtlety to it, and everybody just didn't act out of character for no reason. But the show is just fucking it all up. Terrible episode. Great effects and great CGI and great acting. Really great acting. Surprisingly good. Everybody in the show gave their best, but the acting, but the writing was just terrible.